You're listening to LVB Podcast Show with your friend, advocate, and host, Alvaro.
Hi and welcome to LVB SHOW. My name is Alvaro and I'm very happy to be with you tonight. Well, my friends. Tonight I'm gonna tell you about my last trip to New York City that happened in July this 2015. I came back to Colombia only a week ago, and I'm gonna tell you what happened during my trip. It was about a month, the duration of the trip. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who helped me during my trip, including people like Ed Plumacher, including Mark Ramnot, who was kind enough to have me at his house with it was a great experience to me to stay there, because the people there, Mark and Paula and their son Paul, great people. It was such a different experience than the one that I had in my previous trip that you all heard. It was not very nice in the place that I stay at. This time was totally the opposite. It was great. I was at a wonderful place called Forest Hills in Queens, and I was safe. The place was very clean and I was very relaxed. So I'm very thankful to Mark and his family. Second of all, I want to say that it was really a pleasure to be marching at the first ever Disability Pride Parade in the history of New York City. And that's something that I will always have with me. It was July 12th, Sunday, the same day of my 41st birthday, and it was in Manhattan. They closed a few streets, and I was able to march with the organization I work with called Art Beyond Sight, and we marched as the first organization behind the mayor of New York, and that was very exciting. I have to say for our listeners that one of the most important things of my trip was this Disability Pride Parade. I was looking forward to this opportunity because not many people from other countries are able to enjoy such a moment. This was a super American day, and to be able to be there marching with my fellow people with all kinds of disabilities was just an honor. I have to say also that I have many pictures taken that day from people at the office and from the media that I'm going to be sharing with you very soon. The best of the whole day at the Disability Pride Parade was the brotherhood, if you wish, that I felt. The feeling that we are all the same, we all deserve to be treated right, we all deserve to be treated equally, we all deserve the same respect, and to be in the same place with people like wheelchair users, people who are totally blind, people with autism and other disabilities was wonderful. I was with my cane, Mr. Magoo, feeling very proud like always, and feeling very anxious to see the day where we have the same rights as everybody else in this planet Earth. It was all day. It was a very hot day, probably in the 90s, 98 or so degrees Fahrenheit. It was super, super hot. But what a beautiful day. And I could sense the applause from people as we were walking on the streets of New York City. And people with and without disabilities were together applauding and saying, "Well done," to us. So that was wonderful. And I have to say also the bands, the musical bands performing at the event very close to us as we were marching were wonderful, playing jazz, playing some beautiful American tunes. It was spectacular, the feeling of being part of history as we start something that is the movement of disabilities in New York and everywhere else in the world, as we are doing more and more and more every day. It's up to us to change the situation of our community of people with disabilities. We together united with people with no disabilities, and the whole government, agencies, with the mayor's office, wherever you are, is all together. It has to be organizations, companies, corporations, people with and without disabilities. Everybody has to do their part in order to make us be as we deserve to be, first-class citizens as everybody else is. But to gain that status, if you wish, it's up to us to do a lot of work, a lot of advocacy, and to make other people understand how happy we are regardless of our disabilities. So about Disability Pride Parade, it was the first ever, so we had thousands of people in the streets, thousands of people marching. We want to see more people in the future in every single one of these parades every year. But I'm very pleased to say that it had a good coverage from the news. So I was very happy, and again, it's a day I will never forget, and in my birthday, which is wonderful. You know, if I have to talk about what was this trip about, it was about the dignity of being who I am, of showing and sharing and being able to show that to all the people around me, people in the media and all across the United States, really, from the coverage that I was able to gain through the trip. I was fortunately participating in the Chinatown 25th anniversary of the ADA. So this is again another event of the Americans with Disabilities Act 25. This trip was all about that. It was all about celebrating the Americans with Disabilities Act and representing Art Beyond Sight, the organization I work with in New York. In this Chinatown event, first there was a press conference I attended, and I was able to speak in English to them, to the Chinese press, which was pretty cool, first time ever that I talked to Chinese press. And I talked to a Chinese, Cantonese, Mandarin TV channel. I do not know Chinese, but they were able to understand my English. What was funny for our listeners is that they didn't know how to spell Alvaro, my name, which is unknown in China. So that was pretty funny. But someone there who was Chinese was able to help them spell my name to put it into the Chinese television. In China, the Chinatown event was big. Chinatown is such an iconic part of New York in the United States, around the world. Everybody knows what Chinatown is, and in China is no exception. So that is why this event was big in China, which is wonderful to have China know about people with disabilities and start understanding more and more and more about our rights, our beliefs, and our needs, but also our happiness, also the positive message that we bring to society. Then we had the actual event on a Sunday, all day as well. It was a Sunday as well. It was super hot, and I had the privilege of being interviewed live by the New York One channel. This is the TV channel of New York, a very important one. I was interviewed in English by a reporter named Sarah, and then I was interviewed in Spanish by the same reporter for the New York One Noticias channel. This is the Latino channel of the New York One TV channel.